Imagine this. You build a great company. You listen to your best customers. You improve your products every single year. And then, out of nowhere, a small, scrappy competitor shows up with something cheaper, simpler, almost laughable. And a few years later, they own the future you thought was yours. That's the world of disruption. And the Innovator's solution is a playbook for surviving it and using it to your advantage. Hi, and welcome to this audiobook-style summary of The Innovator's Solution by Clayton M. Christensen and Michael E. Raynor. In the next chapters, we're going to walk slowly and clearly through the core ideas of the book, so you can understand why great companies get disrupted and how you can build businesses that keep growing, even in the face of constant change. This is not just a theory book. It's a practical guide for entrepreneurs, managers, and creators who want to turn innovation from a buzzword into a repeatable system. So, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let's start with a simple question. Why do smart, hard-working leaders in well-run companies still lose? 1. From the dilemma to the solution. Clayton Christensen became famous for another book, The Innovator's Dilemma. In that book, he showed why successful companies fail when they face disruptive innovation. They fail not because their managers are foolish, but because they are rational. They listen to their best customers. They chase higher margins. They improve their products year after year, adding more performance, more features, more power, and strangely, that's exactly how they walk into a trap. Because while they move up market, serving bigger, more demanding customers, they leave the door open at the low end for a new competitor to sneak in with something cheaper, simpler, good enough for customers who were ignored before. This is disruption. But the Innovator's solution goes one step further. It asks, all right, now that we understand the dilemma, what should leaders actually do? How can you spot disruptive opportunities early? Design businesses that can grow without being crushed by your own success. Organize your company so it can both protect the core business and create the next big thing. That's what this book is about. And to answer those questions, Christensen and Raynor start by clearing up a very important distinction. Two very different kinds of innovation. The first big idea is this. Not all innovation is the same. The authors divide innovation into two main types. 1. Sustaining innovation. 2. Disruptive innovation. Let's unpack both, slowly and clearly. Sustaining innovation. Sustaining innovations are the improvements that make good products even better for your current customers. Think of a faster iPhone, a higher resolution TV, a car with better fuel efficiency or more features. These innovations usually help companies earn higher margins. They appeal to the customers you already have. They fit your current profit formula, your current way of doing business. Most R&D dollars in big companies go into sustaining innovation. And that's not wrong. You need sustaining innovation just to stay competitive. But here's the twist. Sustaining innovation almost never destroys a leading company. If the game is sustaining innovation only, big established companies usually win. Disruptive innovation. Disruptive innovations are very different. They start out simpler, cheaper, often lower performing, on the measures that top customers care about. In the beginning, they often look like a joke, or a toy, or a product for those customers who don't really matter to you. Disruption takes two main forms. 1. Low-end disruption. 2. New market disruption. Let's explore both. Low-end disruption. Low-end disruption happens when existing customers are overserved by current products. The product has more performance than they need, more features than they use, and it costs more than they're willing to pay. A new competitor enters with a simpler, cheaper product. It's not as fancy, but for customers at the low end, it's good enough. Over time, the disruptive product gets better. It moves up market, and the incumbent company, that ignored the low end, realizes too late that it has lost the bottom of the market and eventually the middle, and maybe even the top. New market disruption. New market disruption is a little different. Here, the disruptive product isn't just cheaper. It actually allows new people to become customers. It makes something so simple, so affordable, so accessible that people who couldn't use the old product can now participate. Think about personal computers making computing available to individuals. Low-cost airlines opening up air travel to people who previously took the bus. Online learning platforms giving access to courses that once required attending an elite university. In both low-end and new market disruption, the key pattern is the same. The disruptor starts in places the incumbent is happy to ignore. Then it improves and slowly climbs the ladder. By the time the incumbent pays attention, the disruptor has already learned, grown, and captured the future. So if you're a leader, the first part of the solution is, don't just innovate. Learn to recognize which kind of innovation you're dealing with, because the strategy you use for sustaining innovation will kill your chances with disruptive innovation. 3. Start with the job, not the product. One of the most powerful ideas in the Innovator solution is this. Customers don't buy products. They hire them to do a job in their lives. This is called the jobs to be done theory. Let's make it simple. When someone buys a drill, they don't actually want a drill. They want a hole in the wall. But the book goes deeper than that. It says, don't just ask, what product do customers want? Ask, what job are they trying to get done? In what situation? With what frustrations? What progress are they trying to make in their lives? When you understand the job, you can design the right solution. You stop obsessing over averages, average customer, average segment, average needs, and you start looking at specific circumstances. For example, a busy parent might hire fast food, not because it tastes amazing, but because it's fast, predictable, and keeps the kids happy in the car. A small business owner might hire cheap accounting software, not because it has the most features, but because it's simple and doesn't require a finance degree. When you look at the world through jobs, you see opportunities that product-based thinking misses. This is especially important for disruption. Disruptive innovations often win because they do a job that established products ignore, or they do the job in a simpler, more convenient, more affordable way. So if you want to find disruptive opportunities, don't start with technology, start with jobs. Ask, where are people making do with clumsy solutions? Where are they overpaying for performance they don't really need? Where are they locked out of a market because existing solutions are too complex or too expensive? Those are the weak spots where disruption can begin. 4. Segment by circumstance, not by customer type. Traditional marketing loves to segment customers by age, income, geography, industry, company size. Christensen and Raynor argue that when it comes to innovation, that kind of segmentation is often misleading, because people with very different backgrounds might be trying to do the same job, and people who look similar on paper might be trying to do very different jobs. So instead, they suggest segment markets by circumstances. Look at the situation the customer is in, the job they're trying to get done, the alternatives they are considering, the trade-offs they're willing to make. This circumstance segmentation helps you see where a simpler product could be good enough, where convenience matters more than raw performance, where a lower price could unlock an entirely new customer base. For example, 2 people buying a laptop might have very different jobs. A video editor hires the laptop for heavy rendering and creative work. A college student hires it for note-taking, browsing, and writing essays. If you treat them as the same customer, you'll either overbuild for one or underserve the other. When you segment by job and circumstance, you can design the right kind of innovation, sustaining innovations for high-end, demanding jobs, disruptive innovations for low-end or new market jobs. This is one of the central ways in which the Innovator's solution turns innovation into a system, not just a lucky accident. 5. Why great companies struggle with disruption. If disruptive opportunities are so powerful, why don't big companies just go after them? The authors say, you have to understand three things that shape what a company can and cannot do. Resources, what the company has. Processes, how the company works. Values, what the company believes is important. Together, these form what Christensen calls the RPV framework. Let's unpack that in simple language. Resources. Resources are the easy part. People, money, technology, equipment, brand. Most leaders think, if we have the resources, we can do it. But the book argues that's only the beginning. Processes. Processes are the patterns that let work get done repeatedly and reliably. Things like how you plan, how you budget, how you develop products, how you sell and distribute, how you measure success. Processes are strengths, but they can also be limitations. A process built for high-margin, sustaining innovation is usually badly suited to a low-margin, disruptive opportunity. You can't just plug a disruptive project into the same pipeline and expect it to survive. The system will reject it like a foreign body. Values. Values are the rules your company uses to decide what's a good opportunity, what's a bad opportunity, what deserves resources, and what doesn't. For example, a mature company might value large deals over small deals, high margins over low margins, fast payback over long-term bets. Those values make sense for a big, established business. But disruptive innovations usually start out small, low margin, unattractive, easy to ignore or reject. So even if leadership says they want innovation, the company's values and processes will quietly kill disruptive ideas. They'll say, the market is too small, the margins are too low, our best customers don't want this, we have more urgent priorities. And they'll be right, from the perspective of the existing business. That's why the authors argue, if you want to build a disruptive business, you often need a different set of resources, processes, and values. In practice, that usually means a separate organization. 6. Building businesses that can actually disrupt. So, what do you do if you're an established company and you see a disruptive opportunity? Christensen and Raynor suggest a few key principles. Create a separate business unit. Don't try to launch the disruptive product inside the same structure. That runs your core high-margin business. Instead, give the new business its own team, its own processes, its own performance metrics, its own profit formula. You want this new unit to be excited about small wins and comfortable with lower margins, because if you judge it by the standards of your big, mature business, you'll kill it. Match the size of the opportunity to the size of the organization. A $20 million new business might be incredible for a startup, but for a giant corporation, 20 million hardly moves the needle. So big companies unintentionally ignore disruptive opportunities simply because they look too small. The solution? Build disruptive businesses in small organizational units where those numbers matter. Let them grow, and only later find ways to integrate or scale them. Use the right metrics. Disruptive projects can't carry the same expectations as mature products. If you demand high margins, fast payback, big early revenue, you'll force the team to chase sustaining innovations instead of building something truly disruptive. So you need different metrics, like growth in the new market segment, learning about the job to be done, adoption by previously non-consuming customers. In other words, measure progress, not just profit. Profit comes later, after the business has found its foothold. 7. Commoditization, modularity, and where the money goes. One of the most fascinating parts of the Innovator's solution is how it talks about where profits migrate in an industry over time. The authors explain that as markets mature, parts of the system become modular and commoditized, while other parts become differentiated and profitable. Let's break this down. Interdependent versus modular architectures. Early in the life of a complex product or system, performance is not yet good enough. Customers still care a lot about raw performance. The biggest gains come from optimizing the whole system. So companies use interdependent architectures where they control many parts of the value chain and tightly integrate them. Think of early computers, where companies designed their own hardware, operating system, and often software. In these early days, the companies that win are usually the ones with the best integrated systems, and they capture the highest profits. But over time, performance gets good enough for most customers. Soon, people care less about top-end performance and more about things like price, convenience, flexibility. At this point, the architecture tends to become more modular. Standards emerge. Components can be mixed and matched. Think of the PC industry. One company makes the chips, another makes the operating system, others make the hardware, memory, or drives. As the system becomes modular, profits shift. The parts that become commoditized see margins fall. But somewhere in the stack, there is still a piece that remains complex, bottlenecked, or hard to standardize. That's where the profits hide. The strategic question is, in your industry, where is the real constraint? Where is performance still not good enough? Where does integration still matter? That's where you want to position your business. How this relates to disruption. Disruptive innovators often win by using modular components where performance is already good enough, focusing on simplicity, convenience, and affordability, choosing a part of the value chain that incumbents have overlooked. Meanwhile, incumbents often cling to the part of the system where they used to make their money, even as that layer becomes commoditized. If you're a leader, you have to keep asking, what is becoming a commodity in my industry? What is becoming more valuable and differentiated? How may a disruptive entrant rearrange the value chain? The answers might show you where you are vulnerable and where your next move should be. 8. Choosing the right customers and saying no to others. One of the hardest truths in the innovator's solution is this. Sometimes, to succeed with disruption, you have to stop listening to your best customers, not forever, not in a disrespectful way, but strategically. Remember, your best customers push you towards sustaining innovation. They want more features, higher performance, and better service, even if it costs more. That's how you end up overshooting the needs of mainstream customers and leaving space at the low end. Disruptive innovations usually serve people who can't afford the mainstream product, people who lack the skills to use the existing solutions, people who are satisfied with good enough. So if you only listen to your most profitable, demanding customers, you will never build a disruptive business. You have to make a deliberate choice. Keep serving high-end customers with sustaining innovation, and at the same time, build a separate business that serves low-end or new market customers with a different solution. That means different features, different price points, different channels, sometimes even a different brand. And yes, your premium customers might look down on the disruptive product. That's okay. It's not for them. It's for the customers who will become the mainstream of tomorrow. 9. Strategy is a process, not a one-time decision. Most people think of strategy as a big planning event. The executives go off-site, make decisions, come back with a slide deck, and tell everyone, here's the strategy. Christensen and Raynor suggest something more subtle. Strategy is a process, not a one-time decision. Especially with disruptive innovation, you cannot know everything in advance. You're exploring a new market. You're learning about a new job to be done. You're experimenting with new business models. So instead of betting everything on one big plan, you combine deliberate strategy, your best current ideas, emergent strategy, the patterns that emerge as you learn from the market. You start with a hypothesis. We think this product will help this group of customers do this job. Then you launch something small. Pay close attention to how customers actually use it. Adjust your product, your pricing, your channels based on real data. Over time, you discover where the real opportunity lies. The most important role of leadership is not to pretend they know everything from day one. It's to set direction, allocate resources, protect promising emergent strategies, and kill the ones that are clearly not working. In other words, you build a system for learning, not just a system for planning. 10. Good money, bad money, and the pace of growth. Another powerful idea in The Innovator's Solution is the difference between good money and bad money when funding innovation. Good money allows the business to explore, accepts small early markets, encourages learning and iteration, has patient expectations for profit. Bad money demands big, fast returns, pushes the team to chase large customers too soon, forces the business to mimic the profit formula of the parent company, drives sustaining innovations instead of disruptive ones. If you fund a disruptive business with bad money, you will push it up market too early. You'll try to serve the best customers before you have a simple, affordable solution for low-end or new market customers. You'll lose the original disruptive foothold and become just another sustaining player. But if you fund it with good money, you give it time to find the right job to be done, learn how to serve new customers, grow organically from the bottom up. The authors argue the pace of growth for a new disruptive business must match the pace of learning, not just the ambitions of investors or executives. It's better to grow a little slower and build a truly disruptive position than to rush into sustaining battles where incumbents are stronger. 11. How to use these ideas in real life. Let's bring this down to your world. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a product manager, a startup founder, a corporate leader, or even a solo creator, you can apply the ideas of The Innovator's Solution with a few simple questions. Question 1. Am I building a sustaining innovation or a disruptive one? Be honest. If you're making something better for existing customers, charging more, trying to deliver higher performance, you're probably doing sustaining innovation. That's fine. Just don't confuse it with disruption. If you're targeting people who aren't currently buying, offering something simpler, cheaper, more convenient, serving the low end or a new market, you might be working on a disruptive innovation. The strategies, expectations, and organizational design should be different. Question 2. What job is my product really being hired to do? Don't stop at product features. Ask, when do people use this? What problem are they solving? What progress are they trying to make in their lives? What are they firing to hire me? What old solution am I replacing? Talk to real customers, listen to their stories, look at the context. You might discover that your true competition is not another product, but a workaround or a habit or doing nothing. That insight can open the door to new opportunities. Question 3. Are we overserving some customers? Look for places where customers complain about complexity. They don't use half the features. They feel the product is too expensive or too professional. Those areas are ripe for low-end disruption. Could you create a simpler, cheaper product for customers who just need good enough? If you don't, someone else might. Question 4. Who's being left out entirely? Look for non-consumers, people who would like a solution but can't afford it. People who lack the skills or time to use the existing solutions. People who think the market is not for people like them. These are the seeds of new market disruption. If you can make it more affordable, more accessible, easier to learn, you might open up a brand new market. Question 5. Do we need a separate structure for this? If your disruptive idea has lower margins, needs different performance metrics, targets different customers, then ask, should we build this in a separate unit, give it its own team, its own goals, its own culture, protect it until it's strong enough to stand on its own? 12. Key takeaways. Before we wrap up, let's gather the main ideas again, slowly and clearly. Not all innovation is the same. Sustaining innovation improves what you already do for existing customers. Disruptive innovation creates new growth by serving low-end or new market customers. Customers hire products to do jobs. Focus on the job to be done and the customer's circumstances, not just on features, demographics, or averages. Disruption starts where incumbents are happy to ignore. Low-end and new market footholds are unattractive at first, but they can grow into the mainstream. Companies are limited by their resources, processes, and values. You often need a separate organization to succeed with disruptive innovation. Profit pools move. As markets become modular and commoditized in one layer, profits shift to where performance is still not good enough. Strategy is a learning process. Combine deliberate plans with emergent insights from real customers. Good money versus bad money matters. The right kind of capital, with patient expectations, can make or break a disruptive venture. Behind all of this is a deeper message. Innovation is not magic. It's a discipline. If you understand the patterns, you can design businesses that don't just react to disruption, but create it. 13. Your innovator's next step. As we close this summary of the innovator's solution, I'd like you to think about one simple question. In your world, right now, where is someone being overserved, and where is someone else not being served at all? Maybe it's in your industry. Maybe it's in your company. Maybe it's in a market you've never seriously looked at. Somewhere out there, a job is being done badly, or not at all. A group of people is making do with clumsy, frustrating workarounds. A toy solution is quietly getting better. You can ignore it, or you can treat it as your innovator's invitation. You don't have to predict the entire future. You just have to see one job more clearly, serve one overlooked customer better, build one small, separate engine of growth, and give it the right time, structure, and expectations to grow. That's the spirit of the innovator's solution. If this summary helped you see your business or your ideas in a new way, I'd love for you to keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts in the comments. What's one disruptive opportunity you see that others are missing? And if you'd like more deep dive audiobook-style summaries on strategy, innovation, and business growth, make sure to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you for listening. And remember, the future doesn't just happen to you. You can design it, one thoughtful innovation at a time.